Splice vocals. Every producer, big or small, uses them. Knock 2 uses them, Jaws uses them. Basically every producer in every subgenre of dance music has used a splice vocal in at least one of their tunes. This pack in particular has been absolutely rinsed, and that's all good. You know, I've used splice vocals in multiple tracks and still continue to do so. Even Skrillex has been using vocals from sample packs since like way back in the Scary Monsters and Night Sprite days. There is an issue that comes with this though, and it's that you hear multiple tracks use the exact same splice vocal sample in the exact same way time and time again. And again, I'm not really one to critique this because if it sounds good to the listener, should it really matter? However, I do think that more upcoming producers could be using these samples in more inventive and creative ways to separate their tracks from others that are using those same samples. So, here are 5 creative ways that you can manipulate your splice vocals and stand out from the crowd. Now, the first way is going to be to repitch your vocals. Now, the simplest way to do this is to pitch the whole vocal in your DAW using either this like pitch transposition knob in Ableton, or you'll find a similar thing in like FL, Cubase, things like that. But I want to take it a step further and show you a more interesting way of repitching your vocals, and that is going to be using Melodyne. Now, it doesn't have to be Melodyne, it can be another pitch corrector tool, such as like Waves Tune, which is what I use, for example. As long as you're using a plugin that can repitch vocals, that'll do the job just fine. And to best demonstrate this, I'm going to use a track of mine called Feel Alive, which I released at the start of last year. So here are the 2 main vocal parts that I'm using. I'll just play them without any effects.
Bring me back to life.
And then we've got this one.
I feel alive.
So, not a lot to work from. However, I did manage to create a full hook using just both of these samples. So let's just have a quick listen to the first part. As you can hear, the second time that you hear that vocal part, the vocalist sings a different melody. Now, this isn't from a different take. I simply took that same sample, ran it through Waves Tune, and then just altered the notes on the second part. Now you can see on this second time around, it goes down to a C note, when it was originally up here at an F, and the way that I've done that is I've turned on this 100% correction. There'll be a similar sort of feature in Melodyne. I've adjusted my note transitions and things like that as well. But you can see that I've just taken this and I've just brought it down here. I did also, in this second part, I believe, extend in the sample this note here so that I had more room to be able to move the note. You can see on this first time around, it's a lot shorter. So it's the exact same sample, but with a different melody. When you're doing this, it helps to know the key of the track that you're working in. It usually says on the splice sample what the key of the sample is, and then you can just adjust that in your pitch correction software, like Melodyne, like Waves Tune, things like that. Now let's move on to the next section of the track. Now, as you can hear, I'm doing a similar thing as before. Instead of just repeating that sample on the second time round, I'm repitching it so that it's got an alternate melody from the first time. So it's almost like a bit of a call and response type effect. And not only this, I've also got this harmony track just underneath it as well. So I'll just play these two together. I'll play it without it first. And this is with the harmony. So again, this harmony is just adding another layer, creating more interest in this part of the track. And the way that I'm doing that is I've simply got this sample here, and I've just pitched it down, as you can see over here, -5 semitones. Creating that perfect fifth. So if you pitch down either -5 or +7, you're going to achieve a perfect fifth and create a perfect harmony as well. Now, I'm not saying that you need to do this on every single sample, but using the sample in this way makes it feel like you're actually working with a vocalist, and it allows you to add a bit more flair to the samples that you're using. Another way that you could add interest to your Splice vocals is to combine different vocal samples together in the same track. Now, as you might have noticed, there's this little vocal bit in between the Bring Me Back to Life samples being used in a call and response kind of way, so I'll just play these two together. Now, this other sample is actually from a completely different pack, even though it sounds like it's from the same vocalist. Now, to be fair, I did get quite lucky with this working, but when I was working on the track, I felt like something was missing, and so I went digging through Splice to see if I could find something to make it work. And this is the same as what Knock 2 did in the break of his track Dash Star. He's got two different vocalists from two different packs in that intro section, but because they're so similar, a lot of people don't notice.
Tell me where to go, what to do. Show me the stars.
Again, just another way to set yourself apart and add a bit more interest to your tracks. Another way to keep your Splice vocals interesting is to use samples from different genres or different BPMs. So when you're looking through Splice, don't just go hunting for the exact BPM that you're working in or the exact genre that you're working in. Go look somewhere else. Look for something that's got a faster BPM, or if you're working on a house track, look for vocals that are designed for drum and bass. So again, we're looking at my track Feel Alive for this example, because that's exactly what I did. So this is the vocal unwarped at its original speed. And then if I just rewarp it, add the waves tune back on again. So for this, all I did was warp the samples from its original speed of 175 beats per minute, and then warped it to be 130 beats per minute, which is the tempo of this project. On Splice, it also lists this as a drum and bass vocal rather than a house or a bassline vocal. And like I say, if you're looking for samples in that same BPM range or same genre that you're already working in, chances are you're probably going to find all them same samples that everyone else has already used 10 times over. So looking outside of that BPM range or that genre that you're working in is an easy way to find vocals that might not have had that much use. Now, it doesn't always work, but in this case it did. It's just a case of just trial and error, see what works, what doesn't. Another way to keep your Splice vocals interesting is to use a vocoder. Now, a vocoder, if you didn't know, basically analyses a signal and then recreates it using synthesis. Or at least that's what I think it does, but I'm not too sure. But it sounds like this anyway. So that's with the vocoder, and then this is going to be without.
I gotta let go of your ghost.
And then this is going to be with the vocoder.
Oh, if I'ma get over you, then I gotta let go of your ghost.
Now, there's many different vocoder plugins out there that you could use to create this effect, and although I'm not going to do a complete tutorial on how to use them, one plugin that I think is great in particular is Pitch Monster by Devious Machines. Now, it's not the only one out there, but it allows you to input MIDI so you can play whatever chords or melodies you want, and the vocal sample will follow it and ignore its original melody. So in the example that I just showed you, you can see that it's actually following this melody that I've got down here, which is just another MIDI track. There's no synth on it or anything like that. It is just a MIDI clip. So if I solo this, you're not going to hear anything. But I do have it routed on the output of this track to go to this Vox channel here, and then go into Pitch Monster there on the audio effect rack. And then on the channel with the vocal, you can see the first thing that I've got on the chain is Pitch Monster. So if I open that up, you just need to set it to Vocoder, and then make sure that, like I say, you've got this output going into it. And so then once you've got that set up, you can change a few different options like the formant shift. You've got pitch spread, you've got time spread, you've got unison as well, things like that. So a lot of different options for this, but just how I had it before, I thought sounded quite nice. Now, the best part about this method is that when you're looking for vocals on Splice, you can pretty much just ignore the original melody of the sample and just focus on the rhythmic element of the sample when you're looking. And then you can come up with your own melody, put that in, and then you can create something new using that vocal, using that melody. And this method does come with a certain type of sound, you know, that Daft Punk sort of vocoder sound. But if you can make it work, it could be a really powerful tool. Now, one last way to creatively use your Splice vocal samples is to use the vocal chop method, popularised by artists like Skrillex, more recently Fred Again as well. In Fred Again's most recent track, Leave Me Alone, he uses a sample from Baby Keem, where he chops it up and plays different parts of the vocal in a new order. So let me show you how you can do this with a Splice vocal in Ableton. So I've got a vocal here. It was originally 115 beats per minute, so I've made sure that that's set down here as well. And then I've just sped up my project to be 130 beats per minute. And so we can play that.
'Cause I have no choice, so I drown up the noise of what is screaming from within, inside my mind.
Okay, so it's in time with the project. It all sounds good, but we can start to use this vocal chop method to create something new out of it. And to do this, we just need a MIDI track, we need our audio sample, and if we open up the MIDI track in the corner down here, so we're on the effects section, drag this vocal over here where it says drop an instrument or sample here, you can see that now on this MIDI track, when I play a note,
'Cause I have no choice. 'Cause I have no choice.
So when I'm playing different keys on the keyboard, it's playing it at a different speed and a different pitch. But if we go onto this Ableton Simpler or the Ableton Sampler and change this to slice mode, every key on the keyboard is playing a different slice from that sample. And so what we can do is we can actually come up with a pattern that is going to play those different parts in a different order. We've also got some other settings as well that we can use, so we can change the sensitivity a bit. We can also change where each of these samples start. So if I go to this one, so we can change that as well. So I'm just going to very quickly see if I can come up with something using this. And to do that, I'm just going to create a new MIDI clip. You can right click and do insert empty MIDI clip, or you can do Control Shift M, or it'll be Command Shift M on Mac. And then I'm just going to try and find something that I think works.
A few moments later.
I have no choice. I have no 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 I have.
So I've literally just spent 2 minutes on this. You can see we're already getting something quite interesting, even though I'm not fully sure if it's properly in key or not. But you can see how we can start to manipulate the sound, create something completely new from this original vocal sample. And we can start to sort of Fred Againify it even more if we want to. You know, we can get out the auto pan, things like that, and just do a very quick bit of adjustment here.
I have no 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 I have no
So as you can hear, a great way to come up with something new and something fresh using a sample which might have otherwise been used in a similar sort of way time and time again by some other producers as well. Now, there is of course one more method to coming up with unique vocals, and that is to sing them yourself or get someone else to sing them for you. But obviously this can be harder for some people to achieve. But regardless of this, Splice can be a great way to get inspiration for an idea, and if you follow these steps that I've used in this video, you might be able to get even more out of them, come up with some more unique ideas, and use them in ways that others haven't already used them before. So thanks very much for watching, hopefully you found this video useful, and if you enjoyed this video and want more tips and tricks with music production, I recently put out a video where I go over my controversial mastering chain, which is surprisingly easy to use and implement, so if you're interested, go check that out. Otherwise, thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.